Hi guys, and welcome to another video from Stupid is the Norm, where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire on minimum wage. And in this video, what I want to explain to you is how you can quickly become the wealthiest person you know. Last week my wife said to me something rather strange. She said, I wish we didn't have to worry about money. Which I thought was a strange thing to say. I mean, I know she doesn't watch my videos, but I thought she might know after nearly 4 years what I was actually doing here. But clearly not. So I had a bit of time to think about it during that day. And when she came home that evening, I said to her, you said something to me today which made me think. She says, oh, what was that? I said, well, you said, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to worry about money? She says, yeah, that's right. I says, here's a question for you. How many of your friends do you know that have 3 houses other than their own and a flat, because my wife has a flat, which are all rented out and all growing in value? And then she says, nobody. So it's just us then? So I said, yeah. So without knowing it, we are the wealthiest people you know. She said, yeah, well, I guess that's right. Now I understand why she doesn't feel wealthy, and that's because she's still at work. She's a nurse. She's worked for over 25 years for the NHS. And it's a tough job, and sometimes it's a pain in the arse to drag yourself out of bed and go to work. So she doesn't feel wealthy, but I understand that, and I've done some calculations, and I can't afford to let her stop work until I buy my 7th property. So 4 more to go, honey. Now I'm not convinced that anybody truly feels wealthy, because a lot of people, once they meet whatever your definition of wealth is, then aspire to be something else and to grow their wealth even further. And also we're also comparing ourselves to other people, such as humans do. So I'm not sure if you can ever feel wealthy, but I think the first sort of road mark, if you wish, or milestone, is that if you can have the lifestyle that you desire funded by somebody else, that is to say, you don't have to show up to work every morning, I think that's probably the first step to becoming wealthy. But it's very different from actually being wealthy. You see, I think you can become the wealthiest person you know in a very short time. So let me explain. I've got friends of mine, more than one group of friends, who have a nice house and a nice car, driving around a BMW, and on Facebook they're always in restaurants and they're always on holiday. And yet when you talk to them candidly, they'll tell you they don't have any savings, nothing at all. Well, other than saving up for the next holiday. Well, that's not really saving or investing, that's just reallocating funds for a future purchase. But they have no savings at all. And little did I know that when I got to save £5,000, that I was wealthier than them, because I had £5,000 and they didn't have nothing, not a penny saved up. They just spent it as it come in, they just spent it. So I was, without knowing it, wealthier than they were, even though I only had £5,000. Now I've made the distinction before in previous videos that it's easier to look wealthy than actually be wealthy, because the numbers don't lie. There is a number to becoming wealthy. And I read Donald Trump's book called The Art of the Deal some years ago now, before he was president and before he was on The Apprentice. And he was walking arm in arm with Ivana down 5th Avenue, and he was going bankrupt at this time. And he said to Ivana, he says, pointing at a homeless guy in the doorway, he says, that guy's worth more than me. Now at the time, everybody saw him as being this billionaire, but he was just about to go bankrupt. And she said, how's that? We are so wealthy, we live in a big house, and this man doesn't have anything. And he explained, because the numbers don't lie, he says, that guy's got nothing. He says, but I've got minus 100 million. So on paper, the guy in the doorway is wealthier than me. Now, whatever your definition of wealthy is, £5,000 wasn't it, I don't believe anyway. Unless you've had nothing all your life, then £5,000 might be an awful lot of money to you. But I think in the real world, £5,000 is not considered being wealthy. But I don't know what is considered wealthy, because we're all different, we all move in different circles. But let's say you had £20,000 in the bank, or £25,000 in the bank. How many of your friends have £25,000 in the bank? If you had £25,000, you could become very easily, and not so long in time to save £25,000, but you could, in short time, very quickly, become the wealthiest person you know. Well, maybe you do know some people with £25,000 in the bank. So how about, do you know somebody else with a second property that's rented out and bringing in income? You don't? Well, if you did that, you took the £25,000 and you used that to buy a second property, you could then be the wealthiest person you know. Now, it might take you some time to save the £20,000. It took me 2 years. 2 years working 363 days a year, till Christmas Day and Boxing Day off. I never get tired of saying it, because that's how hard it is. But you can do it. Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner, said the first 100,000 is a bitch. Now 100,000 is a big difference from the 20 to 25,000 I'm talking about. But he says, doesn't matter what you do, if you have to walk to work for how many years it is, if you never eat without buying a discount coupon, eat or buy something with a discount coupon or with a yellow label on it, that's what you do to get the £100,000. Now we're not talking £100,000 here, we're talking 20 to 25 to buy a second property. Or buy a first property for that matter if you haven't got one already. And then you could quickly become the wealthiest person you know. How long would it take? How long would it take you to get an extra job, work extra hours, live more frugally, do what you had to do, whatever it is, to get that £25,000? Could you do it in 2 years? See, in 2 years you could become the wealthiest person you know. But Perry, why is it important to become the wealthiest person you know? Well, I think it's a milestone. You don't become wealthy overnight unless you win the lottery, and very few people do that, and even fewer people hang on to it after they've won it. But wealth comes in stages, it's incremental. I currently save about £80 a day. Now it's not an awful lot of money, £80 in the great scheme of things, but it's about £2,500 a month. And £2,500 a month adds up over the year. It allows me to buy another property, which adds more income to it. So these little steps, these little milestones are important because it reassures you that you're on track. You're going to become wealthy. You're successful already because you have a plan and you're executing the plan, and each day you're becoming wealthier and wealthier, and eventually it accrues into such a massive amount of money beyond your present dreams right now. But that takes time, and that's why it's important to have these little milestones. And wouldn't it be nice, the first milestone, to be the wealthiest person you know? Don't be stupid, don't be normal, guys.